Hi, and welcome to FrazlCast. Climb aboard the GNOME train.
Chugga, 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 chugga.
Please make sure to keep your limbs and experimental instruments inside the train at all times. And now, on with the show.
A podcast by a Blizzard fan gnome about World of Warcraft and geeky stuff. I promise you, they do talk about the World of Warcraft. They just go off the rails sometimes.
I'm Frazly, and I am joined by Gerissar of Technically PvP.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going great. Just a nice Sunday evening. Oh, that's weird. I'm recording this earlier than I typically record.
Well, actually, it was later than we planned, though, because Friday turned into a bit of a poop show. But anyway, yeah. But no, hey, thank you very much for having me here.
I'm excited to have you because on this episode, we're going to chat about gaming. We're going to talk about your podcast. We're going to talk about your attending BlizzCon, maybe even a little bit of like your experiences. Just make sure they have a lot of water. I just had to put that in there.
I came prepared.
Yeah, I've got water too. Since I recorded this not long after episode 96, I haven't done a lot new since then. Into is now 119, so more than halfway now to 120.
Nice.
You can see the Horde campaign. I always forget, are you Horde or Alliance?
I am bifactional, but I do primarily play Alliance.
Okay. So good, because I'm kind of going bifactional in a way. I mean, but Alliance still gets all my like merchandise. I've got a Horde sweater that's in the closet that I won't get out. It's from my days of going like hardcore Horde.
Okay. No, fair. I have one server that I've slowly populated over the ages and they were all Alliance. I have done the Horde a few times to PvP. I just pretty much the reason why I did it. Just to, like you said, to get that other side of the story.
Yeah. And you'll be getting 2 mounts in the next patch. So I was like, that was perfect.
Yep.
I'm loving the storyline. I finished the Nasmir storyline. Loved it. It was amazing. There's a lot of stuff you don't understand. I completed the Underrot dungeon for the first time. That was a cool one. I mean, a lot of blood.
Yep. I completed it accidentally just last week. I was doing the Love Rocket and I was running through and I hopped on my Disc Priest and I was like, oh, yeah, I had to queue it up for that. I forgot to do the drop down. So I queued up for a random heroic and ended up in Underrot.
Oh, wait, what'd you think of it?
That was intense.
I think I died once or twice. I have no clue how I died, so I don't know the mechanics on that, but I'll learn it one of these days.
I just healed. I shielded a bunch of people, and then somehow they stayed alive because Disc Priest things. But it's
absolutely
fine.
I've got a friend who told me that they now have their Disc Priest who can, the more that they DPS, the more that they heal themselves. So I was like, interesting.
It's all about atonement, right? So that you heal by being a DPS. It works.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got the companion pet Dart. So this is the one that is based off the Stranger Things. So I was excited. I heard about that one. I was like, it's Dart.
What is that?
So Dart is a character from season 2 of Stranger Things, and it is an interesting character. It's one that I don't want to give too much away. I'm definitely recommend Stranger Things, and season 3 will be coming out this summer. So I'm excited for that. But they added the companion pet Dart because some of the characters in Zoldazar look a lot like Dart.
Oh, okay. I haven't actually watched that show yet.
Oh, it's good.
Okay. Maybe I'll check it out.
So when you're not watching shows on Netflix, Gerissar, what have you been up to?
Excellent transition.
That's what I'm known for here.
Strangely enough, I haven't actually been PvPing too much. I've been focusing mostly on the auction house because in-game gold equals Blizzard buck.
Yeah.
I really want to get the pig mount, but I don't want to shell out real money for that. So I've been focusing on that. I have done some random BGs. I've made the mistake of trying to do skirmishes on my Arms Warrior. That's not a good idea. If anybody's wondering why, Arms Warriors don't have any healing capability.
Nope.
And when you go into skirmishes, you are generally tied up with another DPS. If you really want to do it as a warrior, either go as Fury and do 2 and you'll get tied up in 2s. Or get yourself some real friends and then just go in and do skirms. And of course, I did it on the week that it's not skirms week like it is this week because I'm silly. Doing a bunch of world quests because easy loot. And then, like I mentioned, I was trying to farm up that pink love rocket. So I was doing everything that I had for any 110 or higher. On a daily, I was running through that dungeon so many times I misclicked. So I said, like I said, on my priest, I did that once where I misclicked and ended up queuing into a random heroic. And I actually did the same thing on one of my DPSs.
Any love rocket?
I did not get any love.
Oh,
The big pink rocket did not drop for me, but I'm keeping my hopes up that some year, maybe next year. And then my wife, who also plays, she commiserated. She's like, it's okay, honey. You know, maybe you'll get it next year. And this is the same woman who, when we were doing ICC farming for Invincible. So Invincible ended up dropping for the two of us. And I, being the gentleman, we rolled for it and she won it. So after farming that thing for many years by myself, and she's only been playing for about maybe 3 years now, she got it. Of course, the joke was that if we go and do Pink Love Rocket together, she's probably going to win it. And I'm not.
At least you aren't with Lady Emma. She gets Invincible quite often. And I then know somebody else. They were dating somebody.
Oh, yeah.
It dropped on the run and they gave it to that person and that person broke up with them later on. So it was one of those ultimate regrets.
I made the smart move to marry the woman. So at least now I know she won't leave me.
Yeah.
Invincible had nothing to do with the marriage, but I mean, it helped. Yeah.
Absolutely. It made it invincible. A marriage bonded together by the mount.
Exactly. Yes. It's a good memory. Anyway. So the other thing I've been up to was the Arena World Cups. So I've been watching a bunch of those as best I can. Having two kids that aren't as into World of Warcraft as I am, it's a little bit boring for them, especially when you start pushing like 70% dampening on some of those games. It's even boring for me. So, but I've been doing that and really enjoying it and helping update the Liquipedia, the beta for that. If anybody likes watching Arena World Cups, the professional esports, and wants to have a hand in the Liquipedia site, more than welcome to get, volunteer your time. It's essentially a wiki. So it's all wiki coding in that. We track all the brackets. So I highly recommend if you want to.
I understand it also covers like Dota 2, Counter-Strike, StarCraft 2, Overwatch, Rocket League.
Yeah. The Liquid itself is almost every single esport that's out there.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a link because wikis are fun and I love anything that brings esports to the forefront because I have been enjoying esports. It's one that I don't understand at all, but it's fun that it's becoming mainstream.
Oh, totally. I enjoy talking with other people that enjoy the same thing I do. And if something like that, you're watching it, you get to talk about it. And it definitely makes it way more fun than sitting on your couch by yourself, crying into a bag full of popcorn because you didn't get a Pink Love Rocket.
Yeah. Oh, how did you know what I was doing Thursday night? I mean, after I recorded, I was so sad. Yeah. But, even if we don't have the love of the Love Rocket, I get the feeling that you love games.
I do.
So how did you get into gaming?
Oh, boy. When I was just a wee lad, I am not a young buck anymore. First time I ever really gamed anything, it was, I think it was a Telestar, I think, or a ColecoVision or something like that. It was essentially Pong. That was me and my brothers sitting in our basement watching a ball bounce across a screen for hours. Then my dad finally shelled out some money and got an old Tandy computer from Radio Shack. And I remember, I don't know if you ever played, they called the SSI Gold Box series, but it's a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons stuff. So it was like Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms. I still remember being yelled at my dad. I think it was about 2:00 in the morning because I just died. We didn't have headphones, right? So it was the horrible little speaker on the thing. And you hear like, but it's like horrible 2-bit sounds or whatever. And then I died. So it was all 5 1/4 inch floppies. And I was like cycling through about 6 of them just to get to load it back up. And so that thing's just ratcheting away. It didn't have a hard drive. So it was horrible. That's how I got into gaming. And then I made a promise to myself. I worked a paper route actually and saved up enough money to actually buy myself my own computer. So I was the only kid in high school that had his own 486 computer in his room, hooked into AOL online. I even convinced my parents and I paid for it and had my own dedicated modem line wired into my bedroom.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you what a 16-year-old boy does with his own internet connection.
I mean, even back then, how long did it take for each of the... Anyway, yeah.
News groups were really interesting. Let's just say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kids these days don't even know what they have now.
Nope. It took me days to see that picture. It was worth it, though.
in all of its pixelated glory.
It was on binaries, so it took like a day and a half to download the text files and then run it through a binary converter to turn it into actually a pretty high quality JPEG.
Wow. Now you can access that all on your phone. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. How times have changed. So that's how I got into gaming. And then obviously over time that produced, I got into other games, and I had a really good friend. He was actually part of my wedding party. He at first got me into Dark Age of Camelot, and then he jumped out of Dark Age of Camelot and ended up becoming a beta player at World of Warcraft. So him and his wife, and he's like, dude, you got to check this out. So he showed me he was playing the beta and everything. And I was like, oh, cool. And watching him, he was running around the Barrens, actually, I remember, and mining copper ore. And then he's like, yeah, you get to mine this, and then you can make your own stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. So it's very, role playing and stuff like that. And I played a lot of Warcraft and Warcraft 2 and all that. So I was like, yeah, sure. And then I was humming and hawing about it. And then he informed me that it was free to download. Him and his wife actually bought the original classic collector's edition, including the cloth map that you got to put up and everything. Oh. And with that was some free game time. So he gave me that little dealer taste kind of thing. Yeah. And so I was hooked pretty fast.
You're right. That first taste of WoW, I remember I had that in the open beta. There was some GameSpy articles, and GameSpy was talking all about this. They had that editor who ran around as a dwarf and talked about all their fun stuff. And I got into it. And yeah, you log in, and that first moment, you're like, this is it.
It was pretty intense. What was the first character you made?
It was a dwarf warrior. I used to delete a lot of characters because I got bored of them. So it's now deleted. But it was a dwarf warrior. And what sold me was starting out in Dunmoreau and then walking up the mountain to Ironforge. Mm-hmm. And even though I took breaks from WoW for a while, it still cemented that part in my mind. And I always took the break from WoW because I needed it for my own life. It was one of those, it was taking some time in my life, so I had to leave. But the game's always been there. How about you? What was your first character?
My first ever character was a mage. I want to say it was Gnome.
Ooh.
I remember coming out and, playing around in front of the gates of Ironforge and trying to kill things. And I was very put off because Ice Lance. It's coming towards me. Ice Lance. Frostbolt, go on, and then finally it would die. And then after about the 18th time of doing that, I was like, and delete. And then I made myself a human warlock, and that has been I call him my main ever since.
That's why I had a lot of gnome mages who never made it out of vanilla for that same reason.
Mm-hmm. It was painful. Now I have a couple mages. I actually have one I tried re-leveling, and it's stuck somewhere in Burning Crusade. I just kind of want to delete them again or boost them, one of the two, but I just don't want to level again.
Better leveling. I don't know if you've leveled since 7.3.5. Mm-hmm. I've been enjoying it, especially it's good stream fodder. It's fun to do that on stream.
Yeah. I've just done it so many times. I look at it and I'm like, can I do that? Or I could just do world quests and make my max level tune feel more powerful. So I'm going to do that instead.
Absolutely. It is the dilemma of alts.
Exactly. When you're leveling, do you do any of the PvP or do you only do questing?
I only do questing because PvP I like to do either in the battlegrounds or when I'm with a group. Well, and if I'm on Alliance, I'm terrified that if I go into war mode, mm-hmm. Have you seen Thist on Twitter? Thist is amazing at PvP. And just seeing the stories that this talks about mm-hmm. on the Lagging Balls podcast, yep. I'm terrified that I'm just going to somehow be in the same shard as this, and I'm going to die. So
I think they distribute the shards by battle group as well.
Okay.
What was it? I was on my Horde Frost Death Knight running around, and I actually got really upset because the Alliance were camping newbie starting zones and all the flight points. They knew where to go. I just walked away from my computer and came back an hour later, and they were gone. They were bored by then, but that was annoying. But yeah, I've also been, max level running around, and all of a sudden, like this big ball of red just kind of washes over top of me, and I do a corpse run and whatever.
Yeah, and you're probably more confident in PvP than I am.
Oh no, I'm scared poopless. I actually am not that good at PvP, in my opinion.
But you love it. What do you love most about Blizzard?
Oh, Blizzard as a company or the Blizzard games they produce?
I would probably say that the games they produce, because there has been definitely controversy about the company, and I'm a Blizzard fan gnome, but I don't mean that I'm a Blizzard fan gnome that loves everything that the company's done. But I love what they produce. I love the employees. I love the passion. I love their creations.
Agree. Okay. I just want to make sure we're clear.
Oh, absolutely. Because, I think right now a lot of people feel the same way, that the company has made a lot of interesting decisions.
They're a business and they have people that buy their stocks. They're a publicly traded company. And so therefore they're responsible to those people. And so I get it. It still sucks. It sucks seeing people that I've talked to or feel that I know and have a vested interest and watch them lose their jobs, because that really sucks.
Oh, absolutely. I did see a cool one, and I'm going to link to it in the show notes just because it did help me believe in the company a little bit better. Caden had a tweet that Blizzard has gave them all of their unused employee game time,
I saw that.
Even gave them a 25-year game time code. I'm like, that was cool. And Blizzard didn't have to do it, and it was actually in a way surprising that with all the stuff that they did that. So that was a cool tweet to see.
Well, it's really, I just want to just cap that off with, yes, these people got fired. And I know that there's some people that were on contracts or they were just like very young employees, but a lot of these people that had a lot of time, my understanding is that they have their severances. They have a bunch of, not retraining, but they have they're assisting these people finding new jobs in the gaming sphere. And then also when the layoffs happened, there was a whole bunch of other games that stood up and were quickly, telling these people to just throw them the resumes because they had need of people with that experience. So it was good. But yeah, I did see that. I did see Caden's tweet. I also saw just how much support Caden has gotten from the community, because ever since he started streaming, he got a bunch. I think his sub count jumped several hundred the first day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really awesome. So as for just to roll back to actual in the games, it's the little things they always add in. I've played, let's say for the RTSs, so StarCraft and Warcraft. Before that, I was playing Command and Conquer and the Red Alert in that style. And I remember the first time I played Warcraft, the Orcs and Humans, and just clicking on the guys, and they had different emotes.
Something you're doing?
And they'd say different things. And those little things,
I can do that.
Was by far, it kind of threw me over the moon.
Be happy to.
On Blizzard, and really kind of latched me in as being their biggest fanboy. As soon as I saw a Blizzard game, I was like, I knew that it was going to be good. I had no problem buying it. That said, I have been, while still fanboyish, a bit more prudent with my money now that I am an adult and I have responsibilities. So I won't just go out and buy something just because. And also, I'm very true to knowing what my likes and dislikes are. So RTSs, I definitely like, but FPSs, I don't. I suck at them.
Same.
Yeah. Therefore, by all means, I'll hop out and play an open beta. If you want to let me play their game for free, sure, not a problem. But I've yet to go out and buy Overwatch because I just can't be bothered.
But I mean, it has a really cool pet, and I buy Blizzard games if I get a pet and well.
It's still not worth it. Not to me.
Yeah, I get that.
That's my opinion of Blizzard games, at least. I don't pew anybody who, or rain on anybody's parade if they are playing a game that I don't like, or a style that I don't like per se, right? So everybody that likes Overwatch, go for it. Great. I still check out the esports streams every once in a while because it's still kind of cool to watch a bunch of people try to battle it out. And yeah.
And I still buy the Overwatch League jerseys. I've got a Fusion jersey. I got the custom made one with my name on the back of it. So
really,
yeah, because I'm it's an esport, and I cover a Blizzard game, so I figured I might as well support one of the teams that's close. So go Fusion. That's
cool. It's one thing I did for 2017 because I was really getting into the esports and everything, especially then. And I bought a bunch of the jerseys and the shirts from the teams that I knew that were going to go to BlizzCon. And then it kind of sucks because now I have a bunch of jerseys for esports organizations that are no longer supporting World of Warcraft teams.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do with these jerseys. They're still sitting in my closet. Kind of sucks.
Well, they might make good giveaways for a podcast that you run. So you run a podcast called Technically PvP.
I do. I'm going to be honest. I'm a little cautious on sending back out reused merchandise that smells like my pet sweat.
Okay, I can get that. Yeah. Hey, but if someone really likes you as a host, it makes them they can really give that personal feel.
It smells like Gerissar on a hot California night. That's just wrong. Anyways, all right.
No, I want that. Oh man, my life won't be complete till I get a Gerissar soaked jersey.
All right, just for you, Frazly, I'll put one on. I'll go for a run, and I'll send it to you later. All right.
Okay, sounds good. Yay.
Hopefully the dogs on the Border Patrol services don't go haywire on that package. That would be kind of bad.
Somebody on one of the recent podcasts mentioned something, and I was about chain letters and stuff like that, and I was trying to look it up. I looked it up. Those things have morphed now into some interesting directions. I'm like, yeah, I didn't even need to see that. And I closed that window and never went back to that window. If someone's into that stuff, great. It's
That's a different kind of chain letter. Whew.
Yeah. But some people like chain letters. Some people like podcasting. I'm known for my segues. Hey, they've gotten better over the years.
I'm just reading Sharky Boy's reply saying someone is willing to pay that sweaty jersey for $500. Like,
ooh, I bet, absolutely. I mean, have you seen some of those things? Like the letter from Steve Jobs has gone for a lot of money. Now, I think a lot of it went to charity, so it wasn't just someone making profit. Yeah, I could see that a charity event. So the next Extra Life.
Yeah, the next Extra. Okay, sure. I'll do it for charity. Why not?
And why are you doing that?
Yes.
So why are you selling? So why are you selling the sweat-soaked jerseys? You can probably be podcasting with that. How did you get started podcasting?
That was a rough transit. I'm sorry, man. Oh boy. I've been listening to podcasts well after, I think it was into Burning Crusade. Really looking for the community stuff, really enjoying all that. And then Wrath of the Lich King, I was getting into PvP. I was getting into PvP in Burning Crusade, but during Wrath of the Lich King, me and I was on my Warlock and a Death Knight buddy in my guild, we would always do twos, just messing around. It'd be a fun evening, right?
Yeah.
And I was really and at that time, I was listening to podcasts, learning how to do the dungeons and do the raids. I was looking at all the YouTube videos, and listening to other podcasts, just learning about the game, right? Keeping that community feel. And I never found any PvP ones. And then I think it was about middle of then I found a podcast called RARcast, and they had their own guild called Bound over on a server. They were trying to be a heroic raiding guild. They were successfully a heroic raiding guild, but there was also a few players over there that liked to do some PvP along with the co-hosts. There were also the guild managers and the GMs for the guild. I ended up hopping over there. I leveled the tune, and I offered to also be part of this PvP and try to run a RBG group. And so there's a solid team. We got easily about 12 people doing that, and it was really good. And then when we were doing that, I was like, hey, you guys should do a podcast. Just, maybe just do a couple segments. And they're like, well, go for it, Gerissar, if you want to run it, and then we'll do it all together and have fun. So I got together, me and a few guys from the team, and we did an episode where we just sat down and just talked about RBGs. And this is during Cataclysm events, and it was really fun. And that was my first taste of podcasting, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great conversation. We rambled a little bit, but it was fairly centered, and it was really good. And then at the time, I was married to a woman who was not happy about how much time I was spending on World of Warcraft. Years went by, and then me and her split up, and all of a sudden I had a bunch of free time. I think it was right about the time I contacted Ro, and it was about the same time Winstead had started up his Battleground podcast. So I started up mine as well. And it was nice because we weren't competing spheres. We were kind of doing a duality thing, which was nice. But then he was having a hard time maintaining. He was doing a lot of solo content, and it's really hard to do it all by yourself. Yeah. So then that's when we teamed up. So it was really good. And being stubborn ass that I am, I just won't give it up.
So with that stubborn nature, what was the moment that you realized that you had that passion, or was it the stubborn nature?
It's both. I love talking about PvP. And I guess this is in between those two periods of time. There was a number of times when I'd be, sitting down on some sort of voice server talking with guildies. There's actually a couple times when I went and hung out with people that I knew that were guildies. And as we were just talking conversation, PvP would always come up. So I realized how much I really enjoyed talking about that. So I guess in that, it's my passion for the game and passion for playing that style. As much as I suck at it, I still really like it.
Yeah.
And then the stubbornness was just not giving up. Like, because there was a couple times it was a little bit rough where, there was one episode, it was really early in start of the podcast where I had a person lined up to help talk about demon hunters. So I could kind of wrap my head around it. And it ended up being just me because the person was a no-show. And I needed to do it so that I could maintain my timetables. I couldn't delay it. And the person wasn't responding anyways. So I was just like, all right, I guess I'll go through this. So I did that. There's been a couple other times where, due to reasons, people can't show up, last minute changes in plans and that. I've been trying to be a little bit flexible about that. But again, it's just that stubbornness to just keep chugging through it and just getting it done. I
would definitely echo that. I can definitely remember the times, even on this show, when I've thought about giving up. I wish I could say that I've never wanted to give up, but there are always the moments, and those times you wonder, why do you do it? But then it's getting to meet people like you. Getting to talk with people. I love this part. This is actually probably, to me, I call this game time.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's the ability to just talk to people who are also passionate about the same thing is what makes it worth it.
Yeah.
The other thing that makes it worth it is, personally, it kind of strokes my own hubris, is when somebody reaches back out and says, I really like what you're doing. And it's like, okay, that's the checksum in my brain to go, you're on the right track.
Yeah. And that typically comes in a moment where I'm having doubts in my head, and then somebody reaches out, I'm like, thank you. I needed to hear that.
Yeah. It always comes at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like you too. I would never say that I'm good at WoW. There's a lot of people who are better at it than me. I'm always dying. I'm always doing stuff, but I love it.
Yeah. I'm really good at corpse running. I'll say that.
Yes. Oh, you're probably better than me at that. Oh, great.
Oh no, that's why I like BGs. I don't have to corpse run. I just sit in front of it. I'm back up, full health, full mana. Boom.
And Kai's definitely right. It's through endorphins, and there are also endorphins that come in the moment. You get the high of the podcast. You're like, oh, I want more of that. I want more of that.
Mm-hmm. I specifically remember it was right at the beginning, and I actually talked to D Machine because he was running GCD at the time. He hadn't been hired into the esports team under Blizzard, and we had a blast conversation. It was such a great conversation. The guy is so passionate. I'm so glad he's working for Blizzard now. We sat down with him, and I remember we finished the podcast. I ended the recording, everything had uploaded. I just wanted to keep talking. Like, he was such a blast to talk to.
Yeah.
And then after, even he was like, okay, I got to go. And I'm like, okay, not a problem. I was kind of vibrating just afterwards. I was like, I had to go play some PvP, die a bunch. And I killed some people too.
I had those moments, and you're like that high, and you can't get to sleep that night.
Yeah, I think I was up to 11:30 that night, just vibrating. It's fun.
Along those lines, what would you say is the best thing that's happened to you since you started podcasting?
The ultimate was being offered a media pass last BlizzCon.
Ooh.
The only thing that will outdo that, if it ever happens, if I actually get a official conversation with a Blizzard employee, that will be the only other thing that will top that one piece. But getting the media pass and then interviewing all the pro players, right? Sitting down and, especially after at the end of BlizzCon 2018 and sitting down with Method Orange, sitting down with Mez, Sidu, Sam IM, and just talking about their win. I couldn't believe it was happening. I was expecting somebody to jump out and say I was being punked or something sometime along the way. It was pretty surreal.
This can't be happening. Yeah.
Personally conscious though, I was afraid that I was going to mess it up, that I didn't have the technical knowledge to properly be like, hey, so I saw you do this specific thing at that instance. Do you want to talk about that? Because I couldn't see those things. It's like, some people when they watch NASCAR and they can see the rubbing and they can see all the nuances of the driving, and then other people just see a bunch of cars driving around. I just see a bunch of cars. The crashes are really cool.
Yeah. I was watching one of the arenas one time, and someone did something really cool. I was like, I have no clue what they did, but that was cool. Everyone's going wild. I'm like, okay, yay, I'll cheer with them.
I'll cheer too. Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite cool thing I ever saw was a druid had gone into leap, and so he was jumping through the air. The DK did a freeze on him. It was chains of ice, but when you chains of ice, you had a talent which would also freeze them in place. And so the person got frozen, but they were easily a character head above. So they're just stuck up in the air, just up there. it was pretty amazing.
Oh, wow. Now I'm just like all frozen because that sounds really cool. I'm just
well, especially because the druid was dying and he couldn't get away because now he was a frozen popsicle in midair and he couldn't move. It was kind of funny.
I bet that was a challenge to him.
I'm sure he was probably screaming at his screen. Like,
and just like how challenging that was to him, what has been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome?
Oh, geez, easily my fear. I was always hesitant to become a podcaster and talk about PvP because I wasn't good at it. I knew it. So I felt like because I didn't have the technical knowledge or the prowess, I couldn't throw around, hey, look at me. I'm a gladiator or a rank 1 player. I don't have any of that. I'm not an achievement, but I was so sick and tired of waiting for podcasts to show up that would do what I wanted that I had to just get over top of that and just do it myself.
And what you just said, I was listening to the Half Hill Report and they had a really cool episode with Thunk the Peon, but Thunk said something that was really cool. Make your own turnip. Because they got kicked out of the Lazy Turnip Inn right now.
Okay.
Tosh is like, I don't know what to do. And Thunk's like, why don't you make your own turnip? And that phrase just stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing that you wanted something and you made your own turnip. You made your own podcast.
Yeah, I felt the need. I ended up finding out afterwards that there's been a few other podcasts that were PvP centered, but I just never know about them because at the time when everyone's searching, they just didn't exist. Or
yeah,
I haven't been exceedingly well on advertising my stuff, which is kind of cool in its own way because then it becomes a very grassroots growth. But at the same time, I've been also super lucky in getting some very high rated players who are fairly socially savvy. So when I invite them on, they also help share the information. So then there's a bunch of other people that from that, sometimes we'll pick up from that. I get sometimes some people just don't like podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I wish I could be as like fully like visual entertaining as like Talius and Evanto. I love their videos and like every moment, just like something going on.
I know. I love watching it. They make me laugh so many times, especially when they have the little bobblehead, the little floating heads that supposed to be Medivh, but they use somebody else.
Yeah. And just like the passion. I mean, Talius and Evanto, I mean, just like they're always like on fire. They always seem to have like a perspective on the game. And I'm like, I never thought of it that way. I mean, it's just, I think I first heard about them on the Blue Recluse, I believe. Ever since I found them, they're one of my favorite people on YouTube. They have a love for the game. And like,
yeah.
And one thing that the podcasting has probably opened up to you is the community. And Blizzard has a amazing community.
They do, yeah.
And every year there's a pilgrimage to an event called BlizzCon.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Gamescom there.
Oh, Gamescom. Well, there was that one year where WoW gave away the big announcement to Gamescom and then took the thunder away from BlizzCon. But we won't talk about that. Shall the 15 year. No.
That was the year that we shall not name.
Absolutely. It's the same with the year that Diablo did not make people happy with the phone release.
I didn't know Diablo ever made people happy. Did I say that out loud?
We'll move on from there. I don't want to get any Diablo fans upset. So
cranking it. BlizzCon. It is a whirlwind of activity for a weekend plus a few days. I've been lucky enough to go twice. I wish I had gone earlier. I regret not striving hard to make it there. The first year is the first time was 2017 there. I got really lucky, showed up there with Winstead went as well. So it was me and him hanging out and it was an absolute blast. We also got invited to do the World of Podcasts that night. So Winstead actually, he was on the panel, not me. I had something else, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it, but he knew he could. So he went and did that, which is awesome. At that time, we had Andelin as a co-host, but he couldn't make it. So Winstead actually did a cardboard cutout of a paladin with Ashbringer. And then a picture of his face, he got stapled onto the cardboard cutout. And then we walked around with a Sharpie and got a bunch of people to sign it for him.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Got me talking to a bunch of people just out of the blue. But it was really cool just seeing like also the community. There's these little pockets of little communities, but they all get together and sometimes, spread out and then they all come together. And I'm not talking just CTR, like there's a lot. The other thing I felt, you can't do everything. There's no way. It's like going to Disneyland in a way. Like there's always lineups and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you ever feel the sense of fear of missing out?
Definitely. Yeah. It's like, what's going on. You see everything that's going to happen and you're afraid of what you're going to miss out on. I missed out on a lot last year because I was doing the media pass and I was doing so many things just based on my podcast. And I felt obligated that since I was given the opportunity to use it to its fullest, I didn't do any of the beta dungeon runs. I didn't run any of the classic things there. I didn't even check out. I actually wanted to check out the new Diablo. Never checked it out. I was pretty much sitting in the seats watching the Arena World Cup for the 2 days. The only thing that happened that was probably the worst thing, it was coming late at night. I had left, and that was the first night when the games were running super long for the BlizzCon AWC. Was it the Friday night or whatever? It went into like 11 o'clock, but they closed the door so I couldn't get back in. That sucked. I was somewhere. I was trying to watch the games on my phone on hotel Wi-Fi, along with the other however many thousands of people was on that Wi-Fi. It was horrible.
And some of them probably tried to game and stuff like that. Some of them tried to podcast stream.
Right. It wasn't easy. So I just kind of gave up, and I was using other means to check it out. There was a lot of people that stayed behind. There's a bunch of, like, I was starving. That's why I had to leave, because I hadn't eaten anything since I think breakfast that day. So I had to go eat. But there were some people that had stuck around inside there until the last game finished. So like 11 something. That was kind of insane to me. Yeah.
I've heard some people say you don't eat, you don't sleep, you don't drink.
There's drinking.
Oh yeah. On the last episode, I think it was 95, Epic and Sal and Navix were talking about that, like how much they've drunk at BlizzCon.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It depends how much you want to spend.
Yeah.
If you want to drink, you will be spending a lot. I think it was like $13 for a beer.
Wow.
It was a lot. I did find that first year I went and did the Hilton, which is the big, everybody talks about the Hilton. And then they brought in the DJ. I just avoided the lobby. So then this year I went and did the Marriott, which is just across the street from it. I've actually found that place was busier than the Hilton this year or last year.
Well, I wonder if everybody went there because they've all heard, I've heard all the stories of the Hilton DJ.
It's just insanely loud. It's just too much.
Yeah.
There are some people that show up there, and I would venture to say, I'm not even sure if they actually have BlizzCon tickets or not, that are there just to party. And there's occasionally some people that are wearing some questionable clothing choices and looking for a really, 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 really fun time.
Oh, okay. So like a physical Tinder. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, you just can't swipe.
Yeah. With all that stuff, some people have fun times in some way.
Mm-hmm.
You had a fun time. I think that was my first time I ever contacted you. I had seen you in the guild, and I messaged you after this event, but you were one of the Q&A question askers at BlizzCon 2017.
Yes, that was actually my highlight until I ended up getting Media Pass. That was insane. 2017, I remember me and Winstead had actually walked away from the road to BlizzCon, and we were wandering around. We went up to the Dark Moon Fair, and we're like, oh, hey, what's this? And they have a big like mailbox, and there's a table there with a bunch of little cards on it. I was like, oh, cool. It's Q&A stuff. All right. So we wrote down some questions, right? Whatever. Threw them in there. And then we turn around. There's Lore. There's Hamlet, EJ. There's some other. I'm like, hey, those guys are wearing dev shirts. And so next thing I know, we're standing around and we're talking to a bunch of the devs. Right. And that was the first time I actually met Jared, otherwise known as VHell, who is one of the PvP devs. 30 to 40 minute questions talking later. Right. And we end up leaving there. We go do whatever. And then I end up getting the next day, we're sitting down, and it was the quarterfinals for BlizzCon for the AWC. And all of a sudden my phone buzzes, and I'm like, oh, what? Look it up. And I'm like, a text? What number? 1-800. I'm about to just delete it.
Yeah.
I actually read it quickly, and it's like, your question has been selected. I almost dropped my phone. I almost pooped myself. So then I actually ended up missing the grand finals, because we had to meet up early up on a balcony all together. They put us in a row for how they wanted us to answer the questions. They gave us back the cards. They were typed up. It was your question. And then there was like a rework of it to make sure, maybe to tighten up some wording or something like that, just to help you out. And so if you wanted to, you could just wing it, or you could read directly from, and that's why you always see some people that are like this in front of the looking down, because they have the card right there, and you're nervous as heck.
Yeah.
I see, I'm talking to a bunch of people, and there's like a whole bunch of people in the lineup, recognizing some other community people. And so they all march us down, and we're standing there again. And then we got to ask the questions. And it's really funny because they actually say, they're like, hey, don't, go ahead and do some shout outs. Make sure you do some shout outs. So I do some shout outs. And then of course, everybody's like, oh, come on, get off the shout outs and just say the question. And then I sounded like Batman, because after 2 days of yelling and screaming at the arena, which was amazing, I had no voice left. So I'm like, hi, My name is Gerissar from the... Yeah, it was pretty bad.
And I have to say, I will never forget that. So, I mean, it's one of those, you stood out to me because of that. So I know you kept getting a lot of people talking to you.
Well, it's actually funny because at the time I was podcasting, but part of the World of PvP Discord based off of the Reddit. And I actually hopped onto there later because they're like, who was that guy? And they're hacking me, right? And I pop back and they're like, hey guys, you like my Batman voice? And they're like, what? That was you? I'm like, do you know any other Gerissars from the Technically PvP podcast? Like, did you even listen?
Yeah. And I can understand you would be nervous because, I mean, think about it. Every question that's asked at the Q&A is undoubtedly talked about on YouTube videos, on podcasts. I mean, we've talked about some of the Q&A answers on our podcast.
And that was like, I'm like, I got this. I'm used to standing, I know how to get to the mic. I know how to like get in there, right? Because they're always like, get right up on the mic, right? So you had to do that and look at the people. Don't like, you're not looking into the camera, right? Or anything like that.
Yeah.
I kind of knew that stuff. And yet I walked up there and all of a sudden, like my brain just kind of went, and I was like, oh yeah, card. Hi. Kind of nerve wracking, especially knowing how many people are in that room and how many people are on that camera on the other side of the world. It kind of hits you.
Yeah. I was watching it live. I mean, so I bet it's also fun in line talking to people there. Because I mean, I remember like Ro was there, and I think Ro got to at least shake Chris Metzen's hand this past year. So it's probably that fun experience. You're in line with these people. Yeah.
I remember I was in line with Sparty. He was in line there, I remember. And oh shoot, I'm going to brain fart his name now. He's a gold maker. So I remember talking to them. I recognized them. So I was like, hey, it was like, well, at first in line, I'm like, hi, I'm Gerissar. Who are you? Or whatever my name is. Hey, who are you? And he's like, I'm like, oh, I love your videos. He's like, oh, thanks. I'm like, yeah, you helped me make some gold. Awesome. Sparty Smallwood. I didn't really know, the name sounded really familiar, but I really didn't know him that well. And then I found out later on, like just how, I ended up following him on Twitter. I'm like, he really knows how to run a guild. Like he's pretty awesome. It's just really cool. Some of these other people that are in line with you though, you kind of feel bad because that they probably just dropped their question, not realizing they're going to get picked. And you tell how nervous they are. Right. Yeah.
Cause it's like, you want your question to matter and you're like, oh, I don't want somebody to think like, why are you asking that question? Because I think everybody remembers the meme of how much dedicated WAM do you need for a Minecraft server? I think everybody knows that Minecon answer. I'm not making fun of the person who said that, but that meme was out there.
Yeah, it is. You're totally right. Is that there's some people where the question being asked, they don't find relevant to themselves.
Yeah.
It does affect you in a way. Personally, I think for me, that wasn't a problem. I wasn't worried about that because ultimately I knew that the question mattered to me. And the fact that they picked me to ask a question told me that there'd be a lot of people that would probably also be invested in that. So I didn't worry about that.
And during the BlizzCon, you were over at the arena as a viewer. This was before and after the Q&A. What was it like being a viewer and seeing the arenas live?
Oh my gosh. If I could take that home and do that every weekend, be amazing. Just being surrounded by a bunch of people, all enjoying the same thing, yelling and screaming, cheering on the people that they were fans of. That alone, I equate it to what a lot of people probably feel when they go to the pub and they're all watching a hockey game for a team that everybody's invested, that city's hockey team or something like that, or football or basketball or whatever else you want, right? It's very similar to that, but it's just even more people. Like that hall thunders. And you can tell because if you actually watch or listen, the amount of noise in the background, especially as it crescendos towards the semis and the grand finals, it gets loud. Like you can hear it in the casters. If you go back to the VODs, you can hear how much noise is in the background. And you can actually tell they're actually yelling into their own microphone because it's the only way that they can hear themselves. It's pretty crazy. And that alone was just amazing. The energy of the crowd, it keeps you going. It's really fun actually just talking to the people around you. We've always ended up talking to people around us. I remember again, 2017, we were talking to a bunch of people. Rub Cub was going up because he was on the Panda Global team. He had been kicked off of the team that he had actually qualified BlizzCon with originally because he wouldn't play another healer. He would only play Holy Pally, and Holy Pally had been nerfed, so they weren't actually as strong. And so he actually then turned around, made his own team, and then qualified back through the cups to make it into BlizzCon. And then he was up there. They were on I want to say it was on the semis, And I remember we're talking to people around us, and people didn't know that little background story of that he had been kicked off and had then requalified with another team, because it was all points based, and he had lost a bunch of the points by being kicked off the team. That was amazing. And just like a bunch of people are like, we all talked about that. And then again, this last BlizzCon, again, just talking around the crowd. It was actually really cool because we're up I was really up close to the front row, and there was a bunch of the parents of the players that were up there playing were in the crowd just kind of around me. So that was really kind of cool too.
Oh, wow. The parents, like, they're probably thinking like, wow, this is something that I either was supportive of my kid or I was dismissive of it. And these people are loving my kid and like what they're doing.
Yeah. I think anybody who's any parent that has made it their ability to show up at BlizzCon to help support their kid has probably been supporting it the whole way. Trill, the definitive like world's best demon hunter, not only because he's a raider first on Limit, but also in Method Orange. I remember his parents were really like, his mom was actually on Twitter supporting him on Twitter and doing a bunch of stuff, and he was really cool. It was Cassie's, so Sidhu's wife, Cassie, her dad, because Sidhu's parents couldn't show up. So her dad showed up and was supporting him. He was in the crowd as well. That was really cool. Just all in all, though, the energy of the crowd, the human stories of the viewers. And then further to that, it's something that I've always wanted to do. I wish I lived in a city with more people where you would have like an esport, ability to support or an economy to support an esports bar where I could go to a social gathering spot, watch a stream of an esport, and be able to talk to other people that are like-minded and not have it be through an electronic device.
Don't be mad at me. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and we have an MLG arena.
Yeah, I know you have there.
It was happening one of the weekends, and I'm thinking to myself, I should have figured out some way to get there. So I'm going to have to watch that arena now. I want to go to one of these because they had one of the, I think it was one of the invitationals or one of the finals. They had some big event for WoW esports at the arena.
When they host the LANs, for this time, it's going to be the spring season and the summer season cups. So I'm not sure. Cup number 6 ends in March. So I think it's probably going to be in April is when they'll do that invitational. So you will see the top 8 teams from NA and EU showing up there and playing for essentially the free ticket to BlizzCon.
I'm going to have to figure out somebody because that would be so cool. Because I'm in the city. I just got to get tickets to it.
Yeah, you should just do that. And if you're not really into that, there will be the Mythic Dungeon Invitational. I'm expecting it will also be at Columbus, Ohio, at the MLG arena. Okay. So that one actually, if you're not that much into PvP, that might actually be better. And
in that one, I think I would be more. I play PvP sometimes, but yeah, I would definitely do and I think it was one of the MDIs that was happening tonight. Hearing all this electricity. Ali brought up a good point in chat. The fact that the crowd is so electric that the players have to yell into their mics. That is some amazing electricity in that room.
It's kind of weird, though. I can only imagine what it would be like kind of in the old Roman gladiator scenarios. But you're in a room and you see somebody's health bar starting to drop. And all of a sudden, everybody's just screaming, kill him. Kill, yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine why I lost my voice.
I can't imagine why. Oh, wow.
It's even more fun because when a team wins, some of them get really boisterous. So like I think it was Jelly Beans and Rub Cub again, like they jump up and they were like thumping their chest and like just tossing their hands. They're like, yeah, and like just jacking up the crowd right back. It was, you get the feedback too, right? So you're like, yeah. It was pretty brutal, but it was awesome.
So if you ever became a top esports player and you were at one of these events and they were asking you between the sessions and they wanted to say, what is one thing that people don't realize about you? What would you say?
If I don't plan for things, it goes off the rails. I have a habit of kind of just winging things. It works out in the end, but it's usually kind of clunky and convoluted. If I plan it properly, then everything kind of works out. And I'm often questioning myself. Was that the right decision? Did I do that the right way? Should I have done it differently? Could I have done it better? That kind of stuff. The gerbil and the brain box is kind of always on that track, which in a way is kind of good because it helps me self-reflect and possibly find better ways to do things. But in a way, it's a bit of self-doubt. I guess the only other thing that people probably don't realize, I actually got into Hearthstone. I had played it originally when it first came out, and then I just didn't have time, so I got out of it. And then again, 2017, I was actually in a van driving from my hotel, taking the airport back to the airport. And one of the people I was riding with was a huge, she had a Hearthstone Innkeeper hoodie. So I was like, hey, what's that? And she explained fireside gatherings and everything else. I was like, oh, cool. I didn't know that existed. I came back and next thing I know, I'm hosting my own fireside gatherings in my own city. And now I actually host tournaments as well.
Wow.
Yeah. It's actually really fun. Again, I feel like a sham because people come up and they start talking to me about like the nitty gritty about cards and about Hearthstone and all that. And I'm like, I actually have no idea. Like, I don't play it well enough. I actually got really lucky. Just recently, I finally got enough dust. I made myself an Odd Paladin card right before they nerfed Odd Paladin, which is kind of funny. But it kind of needed to be nerfed because I'm horrible. And I'm like, I'm totally at the bottom. I'm an angry chicken ranked player, if anybody knows what that is. And I was still getting like an 80% win rate on this deck. It was ludicrously sick. So it needed to be nerfed. But I host. So when I do the tournaments, though, I don't do them online. Like we obviously have to play through online, but I actually host through a local gaming store. And everybody shows up. We get on the Wi-Fi there. And so it's all in person. So you actually get to hear people cursing back and forth from each other, which is
that's cool.
Yeah, it's actually one of the mandatory. You can't sit at home and play this tournament. You have to be there.
And it definitely takes somebody who can organize stuff. Everybody wants to do that, but it takes somebody stepping out and doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely. Although I still do it wrong sometimes. The last time I did it, I had 8 players and they ended up messing up when I'd set up the bracket. It inherently ended up in a tie.
Oh.
And then I had to figure out how I was going to undo the tie. So then I had to set up another bracket to undo the tie. But it was a lot of fun.
Wow. And you know what else has been a lot of fun tonight? I can't believe it's already the end of the show. Wow.
Where did that time go?
I know.
That wasn't 15 minutes.
No. You know, time travel, things just like expand faster. I mean,
the watch pot never boils. And I guess if you don't look at the clock while you're talking, it just passes by.
Oh, yeah. I used to have like 3-hour, 4-hour shows. And I agree with you on the planning stuff. Because if I don't plan stuff, I can go on forever. Yeah.
How long does it take you to do post edit? Because for me, it usually takes 1.5 hours for every hour of audio.
That's about it. I mean, depends on the guest, depends on how many filler words, how many mess ups there are. Depends on how much I fumble over my words.
Right.
So yeah, I'm about that same. I love the weeks that I can kind of get stuff fast, but then there are other weeks that feel like it takes forever. Like this last one, I was done by Saturday. So I don't know where this one will be done. No, this was good.
It was an absolute pleasure, Frazly. I really appreciate you inviting me on this. This was probably one of the funnest discussions I've had outside of my own. So
wow,
I really appreciate it.
That's an honor to hear because it's words like that are like what we said earlier. You made me feel really good right now. So thank you. Where can we find you on the interwebs?
I actually hide well. If you search Technically PvP on Google's, you'll probably find me though. So if you really want direct access, one of the best ways is on Twitter. I'm fairly active on there. So you can find me at technically_PvP. I do have a Twitch channel. I've started streaming the podcast recording every other Tuesdays, give or take a bit there. And that's technically_PvP as well. If you don't want to be social and you want to just send me a message directly, best way would probably be on Gmail. And that's technically PvP. Don't ask me why I decided not to do an underscore for the Gmail, unlike everything else I have. But that's that. I do have a blog over on WordPress, but I really don't blog on it. It's more just kind of a landing page that then jumps to everything else.
I've got to do. I'm trying to blog more.
It's hard.
Yeah.
You do enough writing for a podcast just in the show notes to then have to blog about it afterwards. It's like,
oh yeah. Because if people don't ever realize show notes, this is 3 pages, but I've had like even longer. I know Alessandra for Pylon Show there's like 25 pages. They sent me one time.
She's such a wonderful writer though. Like she
is.
It probably takes her about 15 minutes to crack out 20 pages. I do feel a little remiss though. So I talked about myself, but I didn't talk about my co-host, my buddy Andolin. He is also on Twitter at Andolin1244, or you can just find him on Twitch. And also my buddy Winstead is Winstead84 on Twitter. I highly recommend hitting him up. He's a fun guy. Well, actually, so is Andolin, but
I am going to put in the show notes. There is a Twitch clip. So he was on Darkman Herald, I think a few months ago, and he had the funniest. It was Winstalin and then Winstalin and Winstead. It was the funniest thing, and it got me off guard. So I clipped it, and I found it where I clipped recently. So amazing.
Yeah. It was. I remember him doing that. He likes doing the Winstallen thing. He kind of formulated it over on our podcast. And actually, he dressed up in that Russian outfit and walked around BlizzCon. It was on Thursday, so it would have been the night of the World of Podcasts and the Wowhead party and all that. So he was walking around with a top hat and all that stuff. It was pretty funny.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And thanks, Sharky, for the follow.
And I think now I'm going to get my top hat out. I'm going to go walk around Ironforge.
Awesome.
Hey, do you want to come with me? We can go walk around Ironforge together.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that. We'll pull up the choo-choo train set.
Sounds good.
There you go. Awesome. Thanks, Frasley.
Oh, thank you.
Activating customized corporate safe transporter.
I'm back at my home of Ironforge until we one day reclaim Gnomergon. So we did the train thing over at Ironforge with Gerissar and a few different people. And it must have been an Acme Recordomatic because none of the audio recorded. So we will definitely try it again. It was a lot of fun hearing woo, woo, chugga, 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 woo, woo, and different voices and things like that. Every one of the races of Azeroth says it in a different way. It's fun. I got a follow-up from Alessander on the long questions from episode 95. And Alessander said that if you have a long question, write it out as long as you want. Title it the long version, then space up and write what is labeled the short version, which is the highlight of the question without all the details that generally aren't actually relevant. But if the hosts have a question, they can dig through the long version. And that is absolutely true, because then we can take the long version if we want something to discuss or get more qualifying details. But then sometimes it's easier to put in the short version of an email into a podcast. And speaking of listener mail, I got listener mail from Mitrofan. That was really cool to get, and I loved talking back and forth with you on email. And I definitely wanted to talk more because it was encouraging to get your email on a Friday night. So I appreciate that. And to many more emails to come. And if anybody else wants to email me, it's show@FrazlCast.com, and you can find all the stuff at gnomepodcast.com. And that's where you can find the show as well. Well, that has been an episode. I want to thank our Twitch subscribers, Amanda of Geek Hearing, Michael of the Blue Recluse, Razurus, Sir Nate the Great, and Zorts. Thank you for your subs. And thank you to Dazzledorn for the bits as well on Friday night when I was playing WoW. And I've been doing a lot of fun stuff on Twitch. I've been playing WoW, playing some Nautica. Oh, that game is so scary and so good. Twitch is a fun time just to hang out with people, enjoy playing games, and I always enjoy talking with you. Well, I'm Frasley. You can find me at gnomepodcast.com that I mentioned earlier. Until next week, be awesome.
The story of Warcraft could take an ominous turn. It's the Overly Dramatic News. I'm Hunts the Wind. After the recent news of layoffs at Blizzard despite a record-setting year financially, the Dickens quote seems appropriate. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Keeping with this literary theme, there are now rumors of an impending disturbance in the telling of Azerothian lore. Christy Golden, whose talents at spinning tales both Horde and Alliance won her a senior writer position at Blizzard, is apparently feeling uneasy over the fact that no new expansion to write about is planned for 2019. A writer as prolific as she needs a creative outlet, and a stagnant World of Warcraft looks to be an outlet that is clogged. Sources tell ODN that Activision is taking the possibility of Golden leaving very seriously and is putting in place a backup plan for a replacement senior writer should she walk. They are wooing a very well-known author who is much more comfortable with taking long breaks between installments of story. Long, long breaks. The mere thought of this person taking over the plot, however, has caused a sudden spike in the stock of Azerothian Undertaker companies and a corresponding drop in the stock of life insurance companies for both Horde and Alliance main characters. When asked about the rumors, a Blizzard PR rep insisted that everything was fine, just fine, and assured us that, quote, the next expansion is coming. Broadcasting across all Azeroth, I'm Hunts the Wind. Check out the archives at overlydramaticnews.com or follow me on Twitter at HuntsTheWind.
Hey FrazlCast listeners, Allie here. Do you enjoy Warcraft dungeons? Ever wonder what the stories are behind them? I've got you covered. Check out Dungeon Fables, a delicious bite-sized podcast about these stories. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. Take care.
Welcome to the Fraz Report, a short broadcast by me, the Awesome Gnome, about the World of Warcraft. So we have the date of patch 8.1.5. Kaltiran and Zandalari trolls can be unlocked on March 12th. I can't wait to race change Sunday to be a big body Kaltiran with those muscles and that beer gut. I just hope that he can fit into the heritage armor once I unlock it on my soon-to-be rolled Koltiran Shaman. Crucible Storm releases on April 16th for normal and heroic, and then Mythic and LFR will open on April 23rd. The Battle of Dazar'alor is still going strong. We just saw the final LFR wing open, and I need to get into it myself. I still haven't finished all of the LFR wings of Aldir yet. One of the biggest points of outrage in 8.1.5 is that we are getting new portal rooms in Orgrimmar and Stormwind. There will be easy access to many zones throughout the expansions. The Cataclysm portals will remain where they are at. This does unfortunately mean a lot of portals are being removed from Dalaran, the Shrines, and elsewhere. Looking at it, we do sadly lose the Karazhan, Caverns of Time, and the Dalaran Crater portals, which were perfect for farming Metzen during Wintervale. And sadly, Darnassus is finally gone forever, as is Undercity. I don't yet know the impact for low-level characters, as many of those portals won't be useful until high level. Do we finally say goodbye to Teldrassil and to the Undercity? When questioned on why these portals are being changed, why some portals are being removed, I talked with Stazix, who is Blizzard's on-staff mage consultant, in charge of all magic-related things across Blizzard games. They research all of the occult and the arcane. They told me that Blizzard has been consulting in new magic, the art of feng shui, and the KonMari method. They've been watching Tidying Up with Marie Kondo on Netflix, and they realized that World of Warcraft needed tidying up. They read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, the Japanese art of decluttering and organizing. The portal system isn't the first one to be cleaned up. They cleaned up the class systems a while back. They cleaned up ammo a while back even before then. They got rid of weapon levels, cleaned up professions. Many systems have been tidied up a lot. Marie Kondo is definitely proud. They've been working with Blizzard on the next season of the show about how the techniques work not just for homes, but for virtual worlds as well. This is part of an appeal by Netflix to be relevant to the younger crowd, who live all day in worlds like Azeroth, Fortnite, Apex, and others. Now, you may be wondering how Stazix has been consulting with Marie Kondo on all of these changes, yet their show launched this past January. Every answer, and don't look too far into any loopholes in the logic. Stazix is a time traveler. It's a huge retcon to fit a meme of a hit Netflix show into the story of portals being removed. That's one of the oldest magic tricks in the book. Well, I must get to tidying up around here myself. Until next time, be awesome. FrazlCast is a fan podcast that covers Blizzard games. We are not affiliated with Blizzard Entertainment, Inc. Views expressed by the host and guests are their own. Some of the art, music, and sound effects come from Blizzard games and are owned by Blizzard Entertainment, Inc. No copyright infringement is intended.
Want more awesomeness every week? Visit weeklyawesome.com. Weekly podcasts to make your week better. Remember to smile and be awesome.
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio. Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.